our formula is going to call for us to know the principal, the extra credit, which is the I, and the overall account balance, which is the A. P is going to be a dollar sign. R is going to be the percent, and time is going to be the number of years. Now, as I've said so many times, this is nothing different than any other problem. You're going to figure out that you're either doing simple or compound interest, okay? And you're going to go to your formula chart, and you're going to find the formula for simple or compound interest. There's a very slight possibility they could ask you to do both, but the truth is that you need to, either way, you're going to have to come in here and put your finger on the formula, and you're going to write them on your paper. You go find these pieces, put them on the shelf, and plug them into your calculator. And make sure that you know how to use your calculator properly. We talk about all those things today. So one of the things we've been pointing out here is that for simple interest, it calculates your I. The formula calculates your I. For compound interest, it calculates your A. So to differentiate that, what I want to do on this front page is we're going to put the formula for simple interest underneath the simple method where the I is. Okay, so we're going to say I equals capital P times R times T. And for compound interest, we're going to do the same thing, but you can see for compound interest, it calculates your overall account balance. That's capital A, so that's going to go in this box here. So capital P, open parentheses, 1 plus R, close parentheses, to the power of T. Okay. And your capital P is still going to be your dollar amount. And you can see that we may have to calculate, add and subtract to find A or I, depending on which method we're going to use. We're going to practice that now. All right, so we're going to use the same steps that we solve any other problem. Okay? Any other problem. We're going to start with the sentence with the question in it. And we need to figure out in our capital P plus I equals our overall account balance. We need to figure out which one of these two am I trying to find, the interest or the account balance. Let's read it. What is the total amount that Mr. Juarez will have in his account at the end of the 3 years? Okay, so the giveaway here is it's asking you at the ending account balance. Okay, it's asking you to calculate which one of, or it's actually asking you what is going to be the A. And let's go ahead and write up here, simple. And I already know that because I saw it as I read the question. Okay, what I want you to do is I want you to come up here and let's label sentence number 1. Then let's label sentence number 2, and let's label sentence number 3, and let's go back through and pull out the information that's important. In sentence number 1, I'm skimming the sentence, and I see that I've got $560. Sentence number 2, there's my 1%, and it tells me that I'm using simple interest. Let's put a box around that. And in sentence number 3, what do you see that's important here? Not only is it telling us what it is that the question is asking, but it also gives us the number of years. So we're going to put on the shelf here, what are our variables? P, R, and T. And let's go bring them out of the sentence. Here's my 560. Is my capital P, $560. My rate is 1%, and remember, we're going to leave the percent sign in there, and put it in our calculator just like this. And then the third number is going to be the 3 years. We can write it YRS just like that, 3 years. Now, since we know that we're finding simple interest, we're going to use the simple interest formula, I equals capital P times R times T. And we need to write that. I equals capital P times R times T. And just like we've done all year long, we're just simply going to substitute these numbers where they go, and we're going to put them in our calculator and then decide what our next step is. So my capital P is $560 times my rate. And remember, we're going to put it in the calculator just like this, 1%. And then bring in our time, which in this case is a 3. So let's practice on our calculator. We want to type it in just this way. $560 times 1, and remember the percent button is right down here underneath the enter sign. It's got a question mark on it and an exclamation point. Once you hit that, it's going to bring up your options, and you're going to click over and put in your percent sign. If I can get on it. Now remember, we're not done because we have not put in our number of years. So it's $560 times 1% times 3. Control enter, and it gives me 16.8. Now remember, we're working with dollars and cents. So let's go ahead and add that 0 on so this makes sense. $16.80. What is that? That's my I. Remember, this formula is giving me my I. And so in my total, where does that go? It's going to go right here. Now I have a dollar amount, capital P. I'm simply going to put in that information, 560. I have my capital I, 16.80. And in fact, let's go ahead and line our decimals up, just like we have done for years, since we're talking about money. And how do we get our overall account balance? We're going to take our original principal amount, add in our interest to get our total account balance. In your calculators, it's already got your interest in there, so you can just hit the add button, plug in back in your total, your original account balance, 560, and you're going to see that it gives you a total of 576.8. Let's go ahead and put that 0 in there to make sure. Now, we've already read that we started with the question, and we know that we're trying to find this overall account balance, and so we're simply going to match that to what we've calculated. Okay? And we can mark the other ones out. All right, let's try the second. Let's try another one down here, and we're going to turn it over. And I want you to look at the third one down on the second page. It says, Mr. Wilkins. Just like every question, we're going to start with the sentence with the question mark, because we need to know what it is that we're going to find before we spend a bunch of our precious brain energy trying to read and do all this math. Let's go figure out what it is we're trying to find. Remember, when it's simple interest, we're going to have a principal, we're going to have our interest, and we're going to have an overall account balance. And it's going to ask us to give either the I or the A. Let's figure out which one of these two it is. Which amount is closest to the balance of the account at the end of 2 years. So do you think it's asking for the interest or the account balance? Yeah, it's asking for the account balance. Okay, this is the one that we're trying to find here. So just like with any other interest problem, I've got three variables, capital P times capital P, R, and T. And if you forget those things, of course, you're going to go back in and let's figure out what it is we're trying to find. We're going to label the first sentence 1, the second sentence 2, the third sentence 3, and the fourth sentence 4. And let's go in one at a time and let's figure out what it is we can use from each sentence. $2,500. It's going to come out of the first sentence. That's going to be my capital P. In the second sentence, I've got 6.5%, but it's also going to tell me which method am I going to use, compound or simple. It's so important because now I know which formula to use. There is no information in the third sentence that's useful for me. And in the fourth sentence, though, there's my number of years. So we put in our number of years. Let's put it on the shelf over here. And we also have now our 6.5%. And we want to leave that percent in there just as I've said. Now we're going to go to our formula chart. Which formula are we going to use? We're going to use compound interest. Okay? And we're going to bring in our formula. We're going to write it just as it is. Capital A equals capital P, open parentheses, 1 plus R, which is our rate, close parentheses, to the power of T, whatever the number of years is. Now, let's just substitute, just like we've done all year long, 2,500, open parentheses, 1 plus, I'm going to substitute my rate. Remember to leave your percent sign in there, 6.5%. Close parentheses, and drop in our exponent, which is the number of years. And let's go to the calculator. $2,500 times 6.5. I'm going to go over here and find my percent button. Okay, let's make sure we're on the same page here. Oh, no. $2,500, open parentheses, 1 plus 6.5%. Okay. Notice I got to use all three variables, so I cannot forget to go to the power of. I'm going to use this little button over here by the caret button, by the square, x squared, to get my exponent, to use any exponent that I need. In this case, it is to the power of 2. Control, tap divide, and it's going to give me an amount of $2,835.86. So 2,000, let's write that here, $2,835.56. Okay? Now, it's so important that, again, that you're recognizing that we're calculating the capital A. And so that's going to go here, 2,835.56. And it's absolutely fair game for me to ask you how much this interest is, so we need to take this extra step while we're practicing and make sure that we understand how to find the interest. Okay? Well, our capital P is already given to us. We've already figured that out, so we'll drop that in here, 2,500. And as we've talked about in our notes, how do we find this interest? Since capital P plus I is equal to A, we're going to do the reverse, and we're going to draw an arrow back here, and let's subtract right along that arrow. We're going to subtract these two numbers, and then we're going to draw an arrow back, and that's going to give us our interest. So now I can hit subtract, and 2,500, my calculator. And now I've calculated the exact amount of interest, 335.56. So if it was asking for the interest, I'd have that answer too. But in this case, since we started with the sentence with the question mark, we need to get back to that. What is the overall account balance at the end of the 2 years is capital A. This does not work. This number does not work. This number does not work. It is. The correct answer is F. Remember what's important here. The process is important. Make sure that you're reading the question. Make sure that you're using the proper formula. Make sure you're getting all of your information and plugging it into your calculator properly. And then lastly, just make sure that you know what you're trying to find and does this make sense. You know enough to be dangerous now. Okay? So go ahead and finish this up and raise your hand if you have any questions. I'll come around and help you individually. Great job.